For most, entry-level luxury has a negative connotation, and vehicles like Merc's CLA are a large part of that prejudice. With the CLA, compromise is the name of the game. Compromised drivability, compromised build quality, even compromised comfort, which is exactly where a Mercedes should excel. But I'm here to tell you that this falls victim to none of that. Hi, I'm Mike Perkins from Car Gurus, and this is the all-new Mercedes A220. Now normally we'd get right to the driving because, well, honestly, that's my favorite part. And we will get to that because it is great. But what really sets the A-Class apart is right in here. Materials in here are lovely, fit and finish too. With few exceptions, and these do need to be addressed, everything in here just feels right. None of the buttons or switches or stalks feel cheap or loose, and I'd argue some even feel better than what you'd get on a more expensive Mercedes. In fact, this steering wheel was pulled directly from higher up in the lineup, and that is exactly how it should be. Now, there are some issues. First, I can't stand this piano black, and honestly, I can't believe that we're still putting it in cars at this point. I know it looks great at night, reflecting the 64 color adjustable ambient lighting, but during the day, it just looks cheap, and it's always covered in dust and fingerprints. And this red-black leather combo is, I believe, the literal definition of gaudy. But ignore that, or more specifically, don't order it and save yourself $1,500. The real reason that you should be sitting here instead of me is because Mercedes is debuting a lot of new stuff in this A-Class. So this has Mercedes' latest version of voice recognition, which it contends is the best on the market. It's supposed to be a smart system that allows for natural speech patterns. For instance, Mercedes. Mercedes.
How can I help you?
I'm cold.
I'm setting the temperature to 63 degrees.
So that's pretty good, you know, and it's fun too and impressive, but it's not perfect. For instance, when I first got in here, I asked it to let me listen to some hip hop, and it took me right to a hip hop station. But then I asked for oldies, and it was confused. It had no idea what I was talking about. And I figured out that the reason is because the XM station for hip-hop has hip-hop in the name. For oldies, you have to specifically decide which station you want, whether it's 60s, 70s, whatever. So it's not smart, but it's not bad. It also gets the new MBUX, the Mercedes-Benz user experience, that lives up here on these dual 10-inch screens on the dash. Split down the middle, the right side is a touch screen that can also be controlled via this miserable little touchpad down here, or more elegantly via these dual touch buttons. And this is the most configurable interface that I've experienced so far, and it took me a good 30 minutes to really absorb it all. And if you're not a young tech-savvy guy such as myself, you are going to need to get somebody to hold your hand through it, but I promise it's worth it. Check this out. The system is as quick and responsive as you're going to find in a car today, and it has all the usual screens and displays you'd expect, but what you don't normally find is how all of it can be made to appear over here in front of the driver. Sure, you can switch between gauge display modes, traditional, sport, understated, etc., but you can also forego all of that. Do you just want to see navigation? Put it up full screen. How about your power or fuel economy or distance until the tank is empty? Whatever you like. Each of the gauges can display whatever you want to see at whatever level you want to see them, and that's what I've been waiting for. Everything up to this point has been a half step. There's even augmented video that will display street signs and directions right on the screen in real time as you drive along, although that seems like a hell of a distraction to me. And for some reason the video feed pops up every time I come to a stop, even when I don't have navigation on. If anyone can explain to me why that's happening or the benefit of it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And we haven't even talked about the driving yet. In short, it's pretty good. This suspension is exactly what I want for a blend of performance and comfort in a daily driving sedan. The little bit of body roll that you get is more than made up for by the way this thing just soaks up bumps with no drama whatsoever, and the chassis can handle pretty much anything you throw at it. Now this is the all-wheel drive 4MATIC version, which means you get a 4-link independent rear, but if you go for front-wheel drive, you're going to get a torsion beam setup instead. However, if you opt for front-wheel drive and you go for the optional 19-inch wheels like you see here, you'll get the 4-link setup too. As for the engine and transmission, that's a bit of a mixed bag. This 2-liter engine features a single twin-scroll turbo that delivers 188 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque through a dual-clutch 7-speed automatic. Yes, that is less than the CLA, and yes, you will notice that, especially in the top end, like when you're trying to pass on the highway. And usually that'd be mitigated easily by use of the paddle shifters, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. This tranny is slow to shift and the power just isn't there up high. It'll also stumble occasionally at slow speeds, like all low displacement high gear combinations, but otherwise it sounds great and has a nice, almost linear power band as long as you can avoid that lag. Space is great too, at least internally, and although I doubt you're going to get 2 full-size adults sitting in tandem, there is plenty of headroom back there because the A-Class doesn't suffer from that same swooping coupe roofline like in the CLA. Now, I do take exception to this door handle intruding on my knee space, but unless you're a giant like me, that really shouldn't be an issue. And while the trunk does look adequate, it's listed at just 8.6 cubic feet, and I can confirm that you're going to have to drop a seat if you want to try and get any golf clubs back there. What it comes down to is price. You can get into the A-Class for 32 grand, and that's a lot of car for not a lot of money, but you're not going to get any of the fancy stuff that I mentioned. Even those displays are going to drop from 10 inches down to 7.5, and that's going to look kind of silly considering the actual physical size of the screen will stay the same. And if you want everything that you see here, you're talking about more like 50, but I still contend that that's a better deal than the CLA. Hey, thanks for watching. For full details on the 2019 Mercedes A220, just click the link in the description. You can head over to cargurus.com and read my full review. And for videos of some of the competition, just subscribe to the channel.